Hi everyone, Stephanie with Mama Bear Inc. Thanks so much for joining me today. If this is your first visit to my YouTube channel, thank you very much and I hope you'll consider subscribing. Today we're going to be making a card, and this one is inspired by one I saw in Pinterest. Now it's not a Stampin' Up card that I saw. It is by a gal named Therese Calvert, and she does all sorts of beautiful cards. I don't believe she's a Stampin' Up demonstrator, but her cards are gorgeous and I want to try to kind of recreate one today with Stampin' Up images. And we're going to be doing a little bit of old and a little bit of new. And so the old one is Fantastic Foliage, and this came out, I'm not even sure when. I bought this sort of secondhand, I think, off of eBay way back, and I turned it into a clear mount stamp set by putting the stamps. I took them off the wood blocks and I put them onto some mounting foam, cling foam. And so we're going to be using a lot of the leaf images out of the Fantastic Foliage, and we're going to be using this So Grateful for You sentiment from the brand new Lighthearted Leaves stamp set, which is in our current 2015 holiday catalog. Now, if you don't have Fantastic Foliage, basically I think any stamp set would work for this style of card, provided the images are fairly solid. So like Flower Patch might work really well for this type of card, just in different colors and different style. And so that being said, the parts that we are going to need to make our card today, I've got some of the new thick Whisper White cardstock, and I've just cut this 11 by 4 1/4 and scored it at 5 1/2. And this is going to create a standard A2 top folding card. When we fold it in half and give it a good burnish with our bone folder. And then I have got a panel of the thick white cardstock, and this is cut at, so let's see if I can remember, 5 by 3 3/4, because I wanted to leave a thicker white border around the edges. And then because this panel is going to be popped up on off of the base of this card, I have cut some fun foam just to fit behind this panel. Now, the other piece that you're going to need is just a scrap of early espresso cardstock. We're going to be doing our sentiment banner out of this, and we're going to be heat embossing it in white. So let's get started with our stamping, and there is a lot of stamping in this piece. Basically what we're going to be doing is layering images in different colors, and you're going to start with your largest image in your lightest color. And so I am going to be starting with this oak leaf, and I'm going to be doing it in So Saffron ink. And so from there I'm going to go on to this fiddlehead fern in Pear Pizzazz. Then we're going to be doing this little maple and pumpkin pie, and this little kind of aspen leaf and cherry cobbler. And then we're doing pine cones and acorns and soft suede and early espresso. So I'm going to start stamping. I'm just going to kind of speed it up so that you can watch all of the stamping and how this comes together, but not for the next hour. So we will get started. And there is my finished stamped panel. Now, as you saw kind of in the speeded up area, I sort of forgot this area while I was stamping. So I brought back in my large oak leaf in the So Saffron and just sort of filled it in. And then I kind of stuck to an odd number of stamps in most cases until I got to the little acorn. And then I basically just filled in all over the place. And so let's go ahead and get this panel mounted. Now, because there's going to be fun foam on the back of this, I'm going to bring in my fast fuse. This is just an extremely strong adhesive. So when you have kind of irregular surfaces, fast fuse is really the way I like to go. So we will get this. This is cut just a bit smaller than the card panel itself. Get that stuck down, and we'll put some fast fuse on the back of this. And we'll bring in our thick Whisper White cardstock and kind of center this up in the center of the panel like so. Okay, so there is our card base done with our stamping. Next, we are going to be working on our sentiment. And for that, we need our scrap piece of Early Espresso and our embossing buddy. And just lay down some of this powder so that our embossing powder doesn't stick to places that we don't want it. We're also going to need our little sentiment, So Grateful for You, and Versamark ink. And we will get our little sentiment inked up here in the Versamark. And just want to kind of put him at the edge. If my head's in the way, I'm so sorry. And straight down and up. There we go. I'm going to bring in a coffee filter because they're just awesome for catching embossing powder and easily funneling it back into your container. And Stampin' Up's white embossing powder. And we'll just do that like so. There's just a little bit of stragglers here and here. Sometimes, even if you're very careful, you're gonna get a little bit. So we have our embossing powder on there, and we're going to use our heat tool. Now, I do not have a Stampin' Up heat tool just yet. It will be in my next order, but this is loud, so if you have me on full volume, please turn me down. So what we did was heat our embossing powder until it was completely melted. And now we have a white sentiment on our Early Espresso cardstock. The next part of creating our banner is going to require the use of our Stampin' Trimmer. And I want to cut this as a narrow little strip. And so I've just got it in there. I just want it to be nice and straight, basically. And the issue with this one is that it's not going to have flagged ends. It's going to have completely straight ends. And so I want to use the Stampin' Trimmer so that I'm absolutely certain the ends are beautifully straight, which this helps you do. And there is our little sentiment strip. And you can see my cardstock's getting a little rough, which basically means I need to change the blade on my trimmer. Now that we have our little sentiment strip, we are going to bring our finished card base back in. And this little sentiment strip is going to go kind of off of the stamped panel, but not off of the base, right about there, just so that it's hanging off just a little bit, but it's missing something. What do I want to put on here? I think it's missing some gold thread. I think that that is what I want to do. And in one of those kind of messy little nests behind this. And I usually will just go ahead and put down a dollop of adhesive. But I'm a little concerned about doing that because this is so thin. So I think I'm going to put the dollop of adhesive, and I use Fast Fuse for this just because it holds it really well. I'm going to put the dollop of adhesive on the back of the sentiment strip itself and build the little nest off of the back of the sentiment strip. So I'm just kind of placing the end in there and looping it around. The other part of this is because this is like longer than I usually do. And I want to make sure that my little nest of thread kind of goes the whole distance of what I'm trying to place down over top of it. And so, yeah, it's just easier to do it on the back of the sentiment strip itself. And we can make it as messy or as neat as we want it to be. I think it just needs one more down there. Okay, and we'll go ahead and trim this off. And that will be, let's see. Oh yeah, that looks kind of cool. I like it. Okay, so we are going to pop this up on a dimensional strip. And by dimensional strip, I mean I'm using the edges of the dimensionals right here. Don't ever, when you're done with all of the little pieces, don't throw your edges away, because they work really good for stuff like this. So we will go ahead and take the back off of that. And now we need to make sure this is straight. And you can, I'll show you my cheater method. So here's a ruler. This is just a T ruler. And if I want to make sure that I get something just so, I put down my T ruler and make sure it's square. And then I push that up against there, and bada bing. It is nice and straight. And that is going to finish our cool fall foliage card for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I've enjoyed spending time with you, and I look forward to doing so again soon. Take care.